just giving people another minute or two. It's 7:29 right now, just turned 7:30. So I'll wait another minute and then we'll get started. Okay, Doug, we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation.
Okay, your presentation is up, so.
Except that my whole screen is black.
Oh. Well, we better figure that out then. Oh, it says my screen sharing is paused. I'll figure out why it's doing that.
Okay, you do that and I'll just start. Welcome everybody. It's good to see so many people on the call and getting ready for our upcoming season. The number situation still isn't too fantastic. We're about 1,200 registered referees right now. There is another 1,100 in the process. So hopefully we will round out the year with about 23 to 25, which is dramatic. I mean, it's half of what we had 10 years ago, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're horribly short. It kind of depends on the level of game and how many referees we have in that age group. So to that note, I'm getting a lot of questions on the referee pathway and what you can do or not do to make things a lot easier for yourself. One thing that I have noted is since January, they have changed protocols on me 3 times with requirements and and necessary qualifications. So bear with us. This is the latest and greatest, and this could change. The pathway to pro has always been something that was kind of out there, but nobody really understood. And so one of the things that the National Referee Committee asked pro for about 2 years ago was a pathway. And while it took a while to get there, both Alan and Rick Eddy devised a whole system, and there's now kind of a new way for referees to take more ownership in their referee goals and paths. So if you are interested in eventually being a pro referee working for the MLS, basically it's letting you know that you have to start by holding a USSF national badge or a national assistant national referee badge. They have another tier. Actually, they have 2, Pro 2 and Tier 2 and Tier 3. However, Pro 2 is kind of where they look to admit the referees into the pro group that work MLS exclusively. To get into Pro 2, you want to be seen outside of the state. Just doing games here in Minnesota won't really do it. So MLS Next Generation Cup, those invitations just went out. You should be receiving emails from US Soccer on updates and opportunities. If you're not, let me know and I'll try to resolve that problem. They automatically send those out. I have nothing to do with that. You might want to check your junk mail from time to time just to make sure you're receiving emails from US Soccer. MLS Next will be other events where you can be identified by pro. Dallas Cup, which is always the week before Easter, is a great place to be seen. And if you get any kind of an invitation to do games through Rick Eddy, those are the types of things that you want to do. You can advance the slide. So that's kind of your pathway to get in there. It does tell you that the most important thing in this slide coming from Alan is you want to constantly be on top of your fitness. You want to give 100% of your energy and attention when you are doing these games. Progression will always be based on performance alone. So, you know, it's not going to be based upon any recommendations from other people, but your current performance from game to game. This does not mean you cannot make a mistake. This does not mean you can't have a slight setback and still get there. It just means that it is performance alone that gets you into pro and working MLS. Progression will always be based on that. Therefore, if pro looks for anything in an individual, it can be summed up in the following way. And this is the most important line, I think. Impress us on the field with performance and impress us off the field with performance. So if you have never heard me say this before, it bears repeating, and ask me questions later if you don't understand, but your off the field behavior is as important as the on field behavior. So stay off social media. Don't get sucked into arguments or antics that you shouldn't think about. If you are an up and coming referee, your Facebook page is open and available to everyone. Be careful what you're posting. It's no different than the advice we give kids when they're thinking about starting their professional life. If they fill Facebook with a bunch of drunk parties, that's going to affect a future employer's thoughts about you. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. So the regional referee license certification has changed. Up until this year, you had to have 50 adult centers. That is changed because pro has literally doubled the number of leagues and games in the semi-professional leagues. So they are now indicating that you just need 25 games in the middle, and you need 15 as an assistant referee. This means a lot of people probably are close to qualifying to upgrade to a regional, but it doesn't just stop right there. Let me preface this by saying every single person on this call is qualified to do every single game that Minnesota offers short of the MLS FC United. You can be a grassroots referee and do USL 2, both our two men's teams and our women's. You can be a grassroots referee to do the 7 NPSL games. I believe we're going to end up with 10 to 12 UPSL, the 8 WPSL, any of the adult rec MASL games, the women's, oh gosh, what am I missing? MLS Next Youth. The MLS Next Pro games are assigned by pro, so those are probably going to go to national referees first and foremost, and perhaps a regional. But everything else, ECNL, I think I named Girls Academy, all of those games you can be a grassroots referee and do, because all of those games are considered basically grassroots, even though they're semi-pro. The only game that's not grassroots is MLS at this point. And then of course the national team games. So in addition to needing the 25 and 15, and if you go to your account on the left-hand column, underneath upload buttons, you'll find a game log. You'll fill that out. You'll get that information to me. You want to be doing that probably by July 1st. If you are going to upgrade next year, your upgrade period is July 1st through June 30th of 2023, because we are on US Soccer's registration cycle. You have to pass a fitness test, and then you're going to have practical evaluations. Doug, we lost the screen. Thanks. So you're going to, on this particular slide, it does say that you can do 2 games as an adult and 1 as a U19 and above, and then they contradict themselves in an upcoming slide. So at this point, I'm suggesting that the only games we are going to assess are adult. Mainly because there are very few U19 games in our state, so there U17 does not count. Can you put the slide presentation back up, Doug? Okay, I'll wait till it comes back up. Can go through the fitness requirements. Hopefully Doug will find the slide and we'll be able to at least show that to you. We have 2 upcoming fitness tests for the 2023 registration period. They will be at the National Sports Center inside the field house. The reason I am doing this indoors is because it is a very difficult test. And it requires a lot of speed. And the last thing I want is for it to be raining and have people wipe out and not be able to perform. So the 2 dates are going to be the 14th of August at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then on the 27th of August at noon. Those are the only 2 fitness tests that we're going to offer for the 2023 registration period. If you've never done a fitness test before, or you really want to make sure that you pass, I would suggest making sure you're at the first one so that you can retake it on the last one if need be. Although, to be honest, you should just know that you can pass it. You are not taking the quote unquote national fitness test because those standards get a little tougher, but you're taking the category 2 women's test for a regional. So you are going to do 6 40-meter sprints in 6.4 seconds or less. We have gates that time you so that you're not relying on someone's either fast finger or slow finger, or if you have a slow start, the gates don't start timing until you actually cross them. Then if you fail one of those 6 sprints, meaning you get a score of less than 6.40, then you may do a 1 additional sprint at the end. So you would end up completing 7 sprints. If you fail the second sprint, you're done with the test because you can't pass. We usually break for between 3 to 5 minutes. And then you're going to do 20 sets of 75-meter runs in 17 seconds, immediately followed by a 25-meter walk in 25 seconds. You cannot start the next 75-meter rotation until the full 20 seconds is up for the 25-meter walk. So it's really, I can't stress enough how you should train for the test, because it just makes things so much easier. Go ahead to the next slide.
Did you want it on the recertification slide or you wanted something else?
No, I was just going to go to the very next one because the next one shows.
That's fine. This one here?
No, the next one.
Okay.
It's basically just reminding you what the certifications are if you're recertifying. And to recertify, you need 2 assessments. To upgrade, you need 3. The people that can do these assessments, you're not on the right screen yet, Doug. Are you having problems still?
Honestly, Paula, you sent this to me 2 minutes before we started, so I'm not sure which slide you want it on.
Just the next one. This is slide 3. You're going to slide 4.
Okay, hang on a minute.
So what you need for an assessment is either until July 1st of this year, Kenny Lamb, Doug Marshak, or Danny Stupka are the ref coaches, and the national ref coaches are myself, Artie, Troy, and Bobby. As of July 1st, we will just have Dan Stupka along with the 4 of us national ref coaches. So the reason I'm making a point out of this is there's only a few of us. All of the current regional referees need assessments as well as any upgrade. You have to understand that if you are going to go the regional route, you may have to find yourself a game in another state and then get that state to send a national rep coach. So these are all things to think about as you are planning. Do I want to go to a regional? When you're thinking about, do I need or want to go to a regional? It's because eventually you are hoping for a national badge. If not, you're spending a lot of money and time and energy trying to get a badge that really doesn't make a difference in state. It makes a difference out state. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. So that's where it says here, you need 3 adults. When you are becoming a regional, you just need 2 when you are a returning regional. And that's every single year you have to have those. The time period you're going from is July 1st through June 30th. Go ahead and advance.
So Paula, quick question. Are those
Yes.
assessments only after the game log is done with your centers and your lines, or can you do those assessments during your centers and lines?
No, that's after you. So
Okay.
First step, good question. Thank you. Your first step is to send me the game log. If I approve the game log and you tell me you are going to upgrade, then you would want to start communicating with me and your assigners that you are upgrading, because you really need to get a head start, especially if you're upgrading. You need at least 1 assessment in July or August, because you will be very hard pressed to get 3 in May and June of next year. So the first thing you would do if you are serious about this is send me your game log and have a conversation with me. So this is why it says July 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2023. Next slide, Doug. So this is, if you want to take a picture of this, I can always send you the slide deck. This is the fitness test. Once again, we're doing it at the field house at the National Sports Center. And I've worked with Doug on being able to hold these outside of a track, because renting or reserving a track in this state is next to impossible. They want $1 million riders. They're very picky about who can run, how many can be there. The cost is astronomical, and the sports center works with us to make it feasible. It is done on the turf, so you may want to practice once or twice sprinting on turf, because it's a bit of a slow start. However, we can map it out in straight lines. So you will run a straight line of 25 meters. excuse me, 75 meters, then you will either go to your left or right, because we're going to literally make a big rectangle. You'll do a straight shot of 25 meters, and then you will run a straight shot of 75. So it's a much easier way to run the fitness test than on a track with curves. Those are the two dates. I want to note that on August 27th, that's an FC United game, and the FC United practices inside the field house if it's raining. So we may be inconvenienced by a half hour or 45 minutes if it's raining and the FC United is still in there. We don't get to bump them out. They trump us. Next slide. I want to go over the pregame, because it's going to be important this year that you all have quite a few different pregames planned, because it's going to be a little bit of a weird dynamic. And then Doug has some clips, and we're going to go over clips with considerations. This year, currently, we have about half and half in referees, half brand new, half returning. And in the half that are returning, there's quite a few of them that only have 1 to 3 years of experience. So you cannot assume this year, especially, that you're working with experienced referees unless you know that person and they've been refereeing a long time. So a good pregame is going to put a brand new referee at ease, get them off on the right start, and it's going to make your games a lot easier. The key characteristics inside your pregame conference is so that every pregame conference takes time. It changes due to game level, referee experience level, tournament situations, and by age group and skill level of the players. Failure to have this, or having any one that is significantly shortened due to interference, poor planning, faulty communication, this will result in your game will suffer. And so I recommend jotting some notes down and being able to reference them before you get to games. Next slide. Key things to note: if club's linesmen are to be used, you need to make sure, especially if the other AR is there, that you give 2 different pregames to your ARs, well, your AR and your club line. All the club line can do, I want to remind you all, is to tell you when a ball has crossed a boundary line, either the touch line or the goal line. They are not allowed to give direction. They are not allowed to call fouls. I don't care if they are a certified referee. In that game, they're not a certified referee. They're not in uniform. They haven't been assigned by the assigner. Unless they're in uniform and taking full responsibility for the game and it's been approved by the assigner, they're just a club line. You need to also take into consideration the experience of the team without being judgmental. So you have to be careful, especially when talking with younger officials, making them feel comfortable enough to tell you, hey, I'm brand new. I need mentoring or help. The other thing I want to remind everyone is even experienced referees have a hard time taking advice from mentors and ref coaches from time to time. It's not a skill set that we're all just really proficient at. It takes a while to learn how to be coachable. And so be careful in your approach and make sure you have enough time to make sure that referee feels comfortable. Factors that may impact the game are also things to take note of that might change your pregame. For instance, weather, if you're going to have inclement weather at all predicted, field issues, and if you're going to have time constraints, meaning let's say one of your games was delayed for whatever reason and you're going to run out of daylight. Next slide, please. Also, does the game need a winner? If so, what is the procedure? penalty kick during the game is different from kicks from the mark. And you find all of the implications and procedures for a penalty kick under law 14, but how many of you know where you find the information for kicks from the mark? It's in law 10, determining the outcome of a match. It's important that you pay attention to that. Also, how many subs are allowed in the match? For the most part, it's unlimited substitutions in our youth and adult leagues, but don't assume that's the case in any of the semi-pro league games. They may have very specific rules around that. Tournaments may also change things up and have limited substitutions. Discuss at the end how the paperwork is going to go. Make sure you all agree on the score. Make sure that you've all noted if a serious injury and or suspected concussion goes during a game. I can't tell you enough that if you don't take notes of things like that and keep a record of them for a while, it may come back to haunt you, because if the player needs to have a bunch of medical treatment and the family doesn't have a good insurance plan, they're going to want to tap into the player's medical liability policy that they have with the leagues. And unless it's noted in the game log, they can't follow through with that. So it's something to pay attention to. And if you have a very serious injury in a game, mark that on your calendar, because you may hear from the league afterwards. And sometimes it takes the league 3 or 4 weeks to get back to you. And by then you've done, you know, a gazillion more games and can't remember. Next slide, please. The basics in your plea game should include field inspection, player equipment. Please control the controllables. There's no jewelry, no exceptions, no taping, period. That not only applies to players, it applies to referees. Coin toss, throw-ins, substitution, offsides, goals scored, and eye contact. And eye contact is the basics of every pregame, especially with your brand new referees. Encourage them to look at you often and make sure that at every stoppage, you're bothering to take the time to look at them. More advanced games, you'll want fouls in the AR area or in the penalty area, how to let the referee know if the foul is in or out of the penalty area on close calls, how to indicate misconduct and which type of card to use, bench control, what it should look like, and when you as the referee need to get involved.
Paula, there's a question from the chat. Can you define, quote, very serious injury?
A very serious injury, the ambulance is called.
Okay.
And it takes, 20, 25 minutes to get off the field to play. If someone falls, hits their head, and starts vomiting, then you know you have a serious head injury. Those are the types of injuries that leagues have sometimes been known to call back and say, what happened? Did that answer the question, or did you need me to expand? Okay.
So I think that's what was asked in the chat. So I think it addressed it.
Okay, thank you. You can go to the next slide. So bench control and spectator control. I want to spend my last couple of minutes talking about this with you. Most of the people on this call are more experienced. And unfortunately, for years, we were expected to just tolerate inappropriate behavior out of coaches and extremely rude behavior from the spectators. And as time has gone on, and for the last several years, about 5, we've had the ask, tell, and dismiss policy. That wasn't working. So then they moved to warn, caution, and send off. And still, even with us begging you all to deal with it, referees have a hard time. First of all, it's not fun. It's unenjoyable. No one likes to approach a out of control adult. But we really need to to do this. We can't afford to next year drop from 2,200 referees to 1,500. But that's what's happening. People just have better things to do than to go out on a field and get yelled at. And so I want to encourage every single referee in the state of Minnesota to deal with this behavior harshly this summer. You can warn if you want. You can go straight to cautioning a coach. You can go straight to the coach and say the entire sideline has to be removed if need be. Make the coach do it. Do not engage with the spectators. If they refuse to leave, if the coach refuses to do it, terminate the match. Put it in the game report, file an incident report on the MNSRC, and I will back you 1,000%. The reason I want an incident report sent to me as well, a lot of times I don't see the game reports. So unless you report it to me, I don't know there's been an incident. If you are on a game and you're the AR and the center didn't take care of it, try to call them over and help them do it. If they still refuse to take care of it, I would still like an incident report, because I can follow up with the referee to give them some guidance on how to do it. And I can also follow up with the coaching director of the club if it's at a youth, to help that coach or get some extra mentoring, and or I can follow up with the club president if it's their parents. If it's the adult leagues, the adult league has been extremely responsive to me. Anytime I bring something to their attention, they deal with it. So the leagues are all preparing for us to take care of business this summer. Both MYSA and TCSL is rolling out expectations for sideline behavior, and they are planning on dealing with it harshly. I know you're probably skeptical, as I am slightly, but I think we have to do our part if we want to expect them to do their part.
Paul, a question from the chat here.
Yep.
2 questions here. First, can you eject a parent or make the coach do it?
You cannot eject a parent. We have zero control over the crowd. You need to go to the coach and do it. If you know who the parent is that you want ejected, let the coach know. If you don't know where it's coming from and it's serious enough, just have them remove the entire sidelines. And it's probably best if it's, a loud crowd and you want to deal with it early and you don't want to remove them from the game, to go to both coaches and have them both walk across the field. Don't let them shout across the field. Don't let them send a text from where they're standing to all the parents. Make them literally walk across the entire field. It's called the walk of shame. It sends a very clear message to every single spectator that you're not going to deal with the inappropriate behavior. But you do not deal with it. The coach does. If the coach refuses, caution him. If he still refuses, send him off. If the assistant coach is there and can take over, great, the game can continue once that assistant coach goes and does it. If the assistant coach refuses to do it, caution him. If he still refuses to do it, dismiss him. If no one else there is there with a pass, terminate the match. Write it in the game report, send me a copy. Please note that these are, if you are working with new officials and or younger officials, be way more detailed in your conversation of your pregame. Make sure they know how to get your attention if they are getting inappropriate comments. Please be very sensitive. If a young referee tells you they are being disrespected, don't just ignore that. Go and deal with it. It's no fun to have coaches or managers treating you poorly and not have the referee deal with it. And if the referee reports it to me that you didn't deal with it, then I am going to have to deal with you. So let's avoid that whole conversation. It won't be fun for either one of us.
Dustin, you're unmuted if you want to ask your question.
I just had a quick question going back to the or the club line, just because I know we're probably going to have a lot of them this summer. So like as a center, is it, I'm trying to figure out like as the center referee, what's the best course of action? Is it better to do like I do in a high school game for a 2-man and try to be more towards that end to get off sides, or still do the same positioning I normally would? Just trying to figure out the best guidelines for when we have a club line as a center referee.
It's really going to vary. If you have 2 club lines and you're by yourself, actually, sometimes it's easier to just do the game by yourself.
Okay.
Just tell you that the balls have.
Then I won't get any
touch line.
offsides though. But
Well, that's, in your pregame, you don't just say this to the captains, you say it to both teams. You get it together and you say, look, I'm going to do my best. If I see an offside infraction, I'm going to call it. However, if you pull an offside trap and I'm all by myself and that's your funeral, not mine.
they're kind of what I do in JV games anyways. So yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
The other thing is ask questions if you don't get a good pregame, and especially if you're working with a younger official who's new to it, you may have to help guide them through that pregame talk.
Okay.
Certainly, email me with questions as well, but any others?
Yeah, I will get to Stephen's question last here, but there's another question from the chat. Are there any roles or people in the bench or technical area that cannot be or should not be shown a card?
No, you can, if you have allowed the team manager and you've allowed the coach and the assistant coach to sit on the bench, you may caution them and you may send them off.
Okay, that covers all the questions. And I'm sorry, is there another question? Oh, Stephen, I want to go ahead and address your question. You had mentioned, hang on a second, I got to share my screen again. To that here. Share screen. All right. Stephen had asked the question, where can I'm not familiar with where to access the incident report. So on the MNSRC website, on the referee menu right here, there's a report incident. That's been there for about 5-6 years now. So anytime you have a match incident, you should come here. It asks for all the information that you need to fill out. And down here is where you would actually enter the information to make sure that the SRC is notified of what happened. You can certainly copy any match report that you write for any league and just paste it into this match report here. So we don't expect you to have to type multiple match reports, but we do want to hear when an incident has happened in your game, so we can make sure that we follow up if we need to. Paula, you want to add anything?
The only thing I want to add is, let's say you don't deal with something in a game and it's eating at you after the game. I don't want you to be afraid to reach out to me or anybody else on the SRC for advice on how you could avoid that in the future. We're here to help. This is going to be a growing experience. And I will tell you, as a national ref coach that travels to many events, this is probably the biggest issue we're all trying to work on, is holding people accountable for their behavior. You don't deserve to be yelled at. I don't care if you make a mistake. If you're not making mistakes, you're not human. So, I don't want you to think that I'm going to yell at you. If you come to us and you say, hey, I know I should have dealt with this, but I need help on how to, we're happy to help you figure that out as the season goes on.
Okay, I'm really sorry, Doug and Paula. I have a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
As an assigner, I get the match reports. So if there's something that should be an incident report, should I then forward that or go back and have my referee do an incident report if it's something that I don't think we can deal with in-house?
I would go back and have the referee do it because they need to learn how, and just give them some guidance. And if you don't have the time or it's going to take too long, you can just send it to me. That's fine. But they won't learn until they do it.
And one other quick thing, Doug and Paul, the incident report, that's just for USSF affiliated games. Like for high school or college games, we go through NYSOA or the state. Is that right?
Correct. This is
Okay.
just for USSF affiliated. So MYSA, TCSL, the adult leagues, or anything that Danny assigns.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay. Well, if you have further questions, don't hesitate to just send me an email. Otherwise, I'll let Doug take it from here and you guys can take a look at some incidents and hopefully learn a trick or two.
Okay. So before or along with the link for the Zoom session that I emailed to everybody yesterday, I included the playlist of on YouTube of the videos that we are going to try to cover tonight. I can't guarantee we're going to cover all of them, but let me go ahead and pull that playlist up here and make sure I share it with everyone. Here. So, and then I'm also going to quickly put this in the chat to make sure that everybody has access to it. So this is the full playlist. You can watch these on your own machines. And therefore, if there's any lag at all coming from me, you should be able to see them quite smoothly on your own devices that you're using. So we're going to start with the first one here, clip number 1. I'm going to mute this because I don't think anybody wants to hear the feedback. So I'm going to play this through once on my screen. If you're getting lag, please play it on your own device. And then before we get into any discussion with this, sorry, back to the other one here. Before we get into any discussion on this, I am going to launch this poll for clip 1, and I would like everyone to take about a minute and just go through these and answer the questions. And I will share the results of the poll here at the end. There are 5 questions associated with this first clip. Answers are trickling in.
Doug, while everybody else is answering, I unfortunately am using my phone and I can't see this well enough. I'm gonna have to view this later.
It's all right. You can this entire session is being videotaped. Again, the playlist is going to be, was sent out in the email, so you can watch it on a device that you can view it better later, and certainly review it afterwards. So I'm going to wait another 10 seconds here, and then I'm going to end the poll. So please get your answers in. All right, I am ending the poll. Okay, I got to see how I share these. Well, let's see. So let's go through this. So the first question, is this a foul? And I got 72% of people said yes, and 28% of people who answered said no. Okay. So again, I see in the chat someone had lag, and as I pointed out, I have shared the clips so you can watch them on your own device. If you're having problems now, then you're going to have to wait until later. All right, so I'm going to go back, and I got to get some junk off my screen from Zoom here. And I want to point out on this clip, so watch the AR, he's put the flag up. Somebody tell me what that means.
Ball went out of play.
Okay, so the ball is out of play. If the ball is out of play, can a foul occur on this play? Can you commit a foul with the ball out of play? The answer is no. So I've got 72% of people said this was a foul, and that means 72% of the people who answered are wrong. Okay, this is not a foul. It is bad. We're going to deal with it, but it's not a foul because the ball has to be in play for a foul to occur. Okay, so the next question I asked was, is this misconduct? And if so, what color? And I've got 8% of people say none, 58% said caution, and 33% said send off. So most people feel caution. There was a small percentage of people, or a smaller percentage, who said send off, and an even smaller amount who said no misconduct. Before I review that, I'm going to go over now again, something else I shared in the links last night, which is the considerations, the FIFA considerations for evaluation of plays on the field. Okay, Paula has mentioned this numerous times over the course of these sessions. So what we're looking at is we're asking misconduct. Did it occur here? And so I am going to use this page right here, this fouls, careless, reckless, and using excessive force or violent conduct. Now, what I have done for this, real quick, I'm going to pull this up, is I took that and I answered those questions. Let me get this open here. So for clip 1, I gotta move stuff out of the way so I can see it better. I have everything that would support the administration of a red card here is answered with a red font. If it's, probably more of a caution, I've got it in blue. And if it's green, then it means that it's just a foul or not a foul.
Hey,
So
Doc,
as you, yeah,
we're
yes, Artie.
we're seeing your browser.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I understand. What happened was it quit sharing again. For some reason tonight, Zoom keeps cutting out my sharing. All right. Let's see if we can get this back there. Okay. Oops, sorry. So here it is. Clip 1. Did the player show lack of attention or consideration? Yes. Act without precaution when making the challenge? Yes. Fair or unfair contact? Defender never even touched the ball. Did the player act with disregard for danger to the opponent, consequences to the opponent? You can just go down this list, folks, and answer a lot of bright red yeses on this. But I'm going to focus on the poll questions here because that really is what matters. So what part of the body was used to make contact? And I've got 33% of people who say shoulder, 39% said elbow, and 28% said the torso. So I'm going to go back to the video here. As soon as I get that. Okay. I'm going to make this as big as possible so we can see where the contact is. At high speed, it's hard to tell, right? But when we break this down with a zoom, see the elbow come up into the neck and head area, okay? This white player is using the elbow and driving it through the head and neck. That's question 4. What part of the body is the contact made? And I've got 22% of people who said head, 14% neck, and 64% said upper torso. Okay. Right there, that elbow is being driven into the neck of the player in black. Okay. So then ultimately question 5, does this challenge endanger the safety of the player in black? And I've got 72% of people who said yes and 28% of people who said no. Now, I know that if you watch Premier League on the weekends or MLS, you're going to see challenges like this, and you're going to see referees probably just give yellow cards or yell at somebody. This is a youth game. Okay. We need to quit officiating youth games like the games we watch on TV. If you are interested in that pro pathway that Paula talked about, then when you're getting assessed by Artie or Troy or Danny, as you're working up your way towards regional or trying to get assessment so you can qualify for national, and you're doing NPSL games, then I will respect their conversations with you about how, okay, this is just 2 adult players going into one another, but that kid in black is 15 years old. And the kid who hit him is 17 years old. That doesn't need to happen in a youth game. Okay. You go down to the very bottom of our considerations for video analysis and decision-making here. Number, where were we here? 248. Does that player use the arm as a tool or a weapon? Okay. This is contact above the shoulders. Go back to the video. Pull it back. He is driving that arm. He's doing a good job of hiding it by using his body, but he is driving that arm into the neck of the black player. That's a straight red, folks, and that's violent conduct. Okay. Now, as the assistant referee here should be paying attention to this. This ball's on the goal line and he's stopped. If he's down here in the corner, he's going to see that much more cleaner. But he's already making his throw-in signal because he's abdicated his responsibility for protecting the player on this play. So you guys have been watching me as SDI for 10 years. You know that you all fear me when I show up at the field with my camera because you're afraid I'm going to catch stuff like this. I would love to be able to catch stuff like this and show the referee doing what's right. I genuinely would love to do that, and I will trumpet it for all to see when it happens. But 95% of the time in youth games, this sort of garbage happens and we look the other way. There wasn't even a card given on this play, folks. So I would like to see us change the way we officiate youth games for the safety of the kids who are playing the game, instead of worrying about when you watch that on the weekend and I don't know, Rafael Varane does this to, I don't know, Jack Grealish. Lord knows Jack Grealish probably deserves it, but that's a pro game. It's a different set. It's a different story. Okay.
Hey,
All right.
Doug,
Yes, please.
yeah, there's a question in the chat about the AR mechanics, and I want to ask and kind of pose what I was observing with the AR is he seems to look away when he stops and he's calling if the ball's gone out of touch. So what I'm hearing you say is I'm the AR in that position. I'm moving down the field. I've called the ball has gone out of touch, but I see that the players are still running. So move with them so that I can observe anything that happens after I've made the call, because the ref didn't blow the whistle right away.
Yeah, that's right. So, in terms of the question about AR mechanics or the situation to give help, so the AR raises the flag to signal the ball out of play. When that contact happens, that assistant referee should be coming off the line to immediately get between those players. Okay, if that black player is not seriously injured, he's going to pop up and he's going to be angry. And if you're not there, you're going to end up with a fight. So you want to come off that line, and that body language also sends a message to the referee that, oh God, we got something happening here. And then the first thing I'm going to do once things are settled is I'm going to call the referee over and explain to him what I saw. And I'm going to give the considerations. I'm going to say the ball was out of play. The white player unnecessarily made contact with the black player. The white player did not attempt to challenge for the ball. The white player raised his elbow into the neck region of the black player and used it as a weapon. And hopefully the referee will take that and send off that white player. Okay. But
Great.
it's important. It is important as an assistant referee. You're the one with close proximity here. You need to show urgency. Okay. If you don't show urgency, then the referee may think that nothing happened there. And maybe that's what happened on this play. I don't know. But I don't want to see some kid get hurt and because we're not taking care of stuff like this. All right. We're going to have time to be able to move on to one more of the 4 clips. We have another session in a couple of weeks, so we'll be able to cover additional clips then. So no worries about not getting through them all tonight. I am going to advance. Hang on a second. I know I need to share my screen. So let me get that set up, and then we'll do the screen share. Oops. Share screen, Zoom. All right, here we go. So this is clip 2. If you're getting lag, then watch clip 2 from the playlist. Mute this, I don't want feedback. So there's the foul. And we're going to see it in slow motion. All right. So I'm going to pull it back to here at the point of the foul. I'm going to shrink this down, and then we are going to launch a new poll. Stop sharing this one and clip to launch. Okay, you guys all got about a minute to answer the questions. For this poll, there are 6 questions. Got 30 seconds. Actually, I'll give you a little longer than that. We'll give you another minute here to answer these questions because there's 6 of them. All right, 30 seconds, please. Fifteen seconds. All right, I am ending the poll. Okay, and I'm going to share the results with everybody here. So one person said pushing. I'm pretty sure they just accidentally clicked wrong. I think certainly tripping or tackling in an illegal manner, I think both of these probably are justifiable. Real quickly, before I go through the rest of this poll, I want to quickly go back to here, because now we're talking about the focus on this clip is stopping a promising attack. And when we evaluate for that particular challenge, we need to know what's the distance between the offense and the goal. So this happens in midfield. The attacker has control of the ball and will gain control of the ball after their touch. They're moving towards goal. There are 2 defenders involved. Those defenders are located. There's the one defender is making the tackle and the other one is rotating to that touch line. There are 2 attackers involved. Those attackers, you have the player advancing with the ball and then his teammate who's in the middle of the field. He will have one option to pass, but it's going to be a great option because that remaining defender who has to rotate to the touchline is going to leave that player unmarked. So does this challenge stop a promising attack? Go back to the video here. Share. Zoom is not particularly conducive to switching back and forth. So I'm going to go to this widescreen layout here. And when you look at this, once this player has beaten the player on the touchline, you can see his teammate in the middle of the field, and you can see one defender. Okay. When that ball goes down the touchline, that center back is going to have to rotate over to try and stop the ball. And that is going to leave the other player unmarked. All he's got to do is play that ball out in front of that player, and he's going to have a scoring chance. Okay. So in reality, at the moment of the challenge, once this player is beat, you've got 2 white attackers and essentially just 1 black defender remaining. Okay. So we have, I see 78% of people believe that the player will retain control of the ball. He will. Okay. There's no black player who's going to be able to take this ball away from him. How many defenders are going to be involved? I see 46% said 1. I can see the 39% saying 2 because they're thinking about number 23 here. But in reality, with the short field, 23 is not going to be able to get over to help out. 3, well, I don't know who the third player is, to be honest with you. That guy that ball's pushed out far enough front. He's not going to have an impact on that play. How many attackers will be involved? Essentially, it's going to be these 2. Maybe that third attacker would get involved. Will the attacker have strong options? I see 87% of people said yes. As for the 13% of people who said no, folks, you got to watch these plays and see how they develop on TV. This is absolutely going to be a great scoring chance. So I'm okay with people complaining that this tackle's reckless. I think it's justifiable, but I do want people to recognize that this is stopping a promising attack. Most importantly, at a minimum, this is stopping a promising attack. And if you want to go with reckless, I don't really care, but this has to be booked. And the referee did in fact book the player on this play. So it is 8:30. I cannot stick around because we have to get to another session for the NPSL group. Does anybody quickly have any questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody coming in. We'll hopefully spend a little bit more time on clips on the last session here in a couple of weeks. And I thank everybody for attending. Real quick, I'm going to go to the chat. I see a lot of thanks and thank yous. So great. Everybody have a good night and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers, thanks.